Good evening. So this is lecture 3 of multivariate time series. So in yesterday's lecture or the previous lecture, lecture 2, we have seen the estimates of the mean, autocorrelation and cross correlation matrices in general for the multivariate series. So in this lecture, we are going to introduce uh, different types of model. I mean, basically, there are few models that we study, not all of them. So we are going to introduce what is known as the vector autoregression model, which is parallel to what you have learned in the univariate case, the autoregression model. So what is vector autoregression models? So we are going to define what is called a VAR-P process. So vector autoregression model of order P is defined as xt equal to nu. Now xt is a vector, nu is a vector, a1 is a matrix. We have seen that already. a1 xt minus 1 plus etc. ap xt minus p plus zt uh, t equal to 0 plus or minus 1 etc. Now here xt is a k by 1 vector. It has got k components, so it's a k component or k variate time series. It has the similar structure that of an univariate AR, but only difference is that there these coefficients were scalars, but now they are matrices. So you have A1 is a matrix, A2 is a matrix, etc. AP is a matrix. What is the order of this? So order is k by k because this is k by 1, so you will have k by 1. And I want k by 1 because of the fact that this is k by 1, this is k by 1. So to comfort, conformability of addition, we require this to be a k by 1, k by k matrix. So I have this nu as nu1, nu2, nu k is a fixed vector of intercept terms. And zt, earlier we used to write it's a univariate normal 0 sigma square. Now we consider it as a multivariate. So it's a k variate normal distribution with mean vector 0 and variance covariance matrix sigma, which is of order k by k. Now for p equal to 1, so if you consider p equal to 1, you will get the var 1. Okay, so it will have only this term. That means nu plus a1 xt minus 1 plus zt. Okay, now like in the case of univariate time series, these x1, x2, xt are uniquely determined by two things. What is that? These innovations and the starting value. The starting value is x naught. So these are uniquely determined by x naught, z1, z2, etc., zt. How we can say that? So we can say that very easily because we can see that in the case of var1. For example, if I continuously substitute, this is something similar what we have done in the univariate case. You keep on substituting this. If xt equal to this, I am going to substitute for xt minus 1. What will be that? It will be nu plus a1 xt minus 2 plus zt minus 1. So that I am going to substitute here. So nu plus a1. So this is for a1 I equal to 1, a1 zt minus 1. Okay, I equal to 0 means it is zt. So you have zt, a1 zt minus 1. Then you have I equal to 2, you have a2 zt minus 2, etc. You continue to do that. So ultimately you end up having this particular kind of a representation. Now what happens that if this is 0, this term would not have been there because nu is 0. But if it is not 0, as j increases, you will get an infinite sum here, right? And similarly, this also as j increases, this also going to infinity. As j become infinity, this infinite sum. So what is required, like in the case of univariate case, we need to show that these three terms actually converge and you get that as a proper random variable because that is what is xt. So the process exists only if this happens. So what were the conditions in the case of univariate case? The condition was absolute of phi less than 1. So here the similar condition is that I have only one matrix here. What is that matrix? A1. So the condition is the eigenvalues of this A1 matrix are the absolute values of the eigenvalues are all less than 1. I mean like so if all eigenvalues have modulus less than 1, then the sequence a1 to the power of I will be absolutely summable. Absolutely summable essentially means that if I equal to 0 to infinity, a1 to the power of I zt minus I. So now once it is infinity, I have to justify the existence of this random variable, and this is done by assuming, I assume that this a1 is such that its eigenvalues are less than, absolute of eigenvalues are less than 1. Therefore, this particular random variable x, I mean, exist in expectation. So its mean square error converges to 0, and then so this is basically sorry, not to 0. So this exists or converges to the random variable. Whatever the random variable is xt. Of course, I'm going to tell something about this all three terms. There are three terms in fact. This is one term, and this is second term, and this is third three term. Where I got these all the three terms, continuously substituting for xt's here. In the sense, if this is x, the expression for xt, I'll substitute for xt minus 1, substitute for xt minus 2, etc. Substitute for xt minus j plus 1. So I'll get this expression. Okay? Go up to j times. So, like in the univariate case, I'm going to say that if j goes to infinity, this is like a geometric series, infinite geometric series. It's like 1 plus 5 plus etc. Where does that term converge? 1 upon 1 minus 5. Now here there is nothing like 1 upon 1 minus 5. What is the parallel to that? The parallel to that is I minus a1 to the power of minus 1. Okay, because I minus a1 is a matrix, so the infinite sum of this actually converges to I minus a1 to the power of minus 1. So this is what it is. So that is this term, I minus a1 to the power of minus 1. Now look at the second term. This second term, what happened, because of the eigenvalues of a1 is less than 1, the absolute, as j become infinity, this actually goes to 0. Because this is like 5 to the power of j, and then if you allow j to go to infinity, and when phi is less than 1, that goes to 0. Okay, so this will go to 0. What will happen to this? This will be an infinite series. This will be an infinite series, the third term, that is going to be an infinite series, and once this is an infinite series, it converges in mean square. So I will have this is absolutely summable. Moreover, this actually converges to ik minus a1 to the power of minus 1. Ik stands for ak by k identity matrix. So this minus 1 into nu. Nu is here. I mean, like it is here. You will get this term. I don't have the digital writer today, so I'm unable to write them, but I think you can verify. So, and this converges to 0, and therefore we can ignore the term, this term. So second term we can ignore because this goes to 0. The first term goes to I minus a1 to the power of minus 1 into nu. Okay, and the third term actually goes to summation I equal to 0 to infinity a1 to the power of I zt minus I. Now the existence of third term can be proved in mean square sense. So we will have this is a proper random variable. Okay. So what is happening here? This whole thing is now going to this. So xt is a proper process. In fact, it is free from t. Why it is free from t? Then you may say there is a t here, but this zt is a white noise. So expectation of z is stationary. The expectation of z is 0. So this expectation of this is going to be this quantity. That's what it is. So expectation of this is constant for all t. And the covariance function, you can see that gamma xh is xt minus mu, xt minus h minus mu prime. And that is not depending on the t, it just depends on the h. So you get a stationary covariance series. Of course, all this stationarity is depending on the stability condition that we have assumed. What was the condition? The eigenvalues of all a1 has modulus less than 1. So if that happens, then this sequence is absolutely summable, and then this xt is actually a stationary series in such a case, and its mean is given by this, its covariance function is given by this. Okay? So for where one process xt equal to nu plus a1 xt minus 1 zt is stable, we call it a stable. Then you may say, why not stationary? Well, actually stability is much more general. Stability implies stationarity. So it's stable if all the eigenvalues of a1 has modulus less than 1. So the above condition, we can say that these eigenvalues of this is less than 1 can be represented. What is going by the definition of eigenvalue? What is the definition of eigenvalue? Determinant of ik minus a1z not equal to 0 for mod z less than or equal to 1. That's what, so for mod z less than or equal to 1, this is determinant of this is not equal to 0, then we can say that this is stable. So this condition, eigenvalues of a1 less than 1 is equivalent to this condition. Okay, so this is called the stability condition. Now, this condition is very easy to write in for, or to write in the case of var 1, vector order frequency of order 1. So now what I am going to do is that, what are we going to do? Because we have seen in the case of var p, in the case of univariate time series, for pth order autoregression, we have seen that the characteristic polynomial 1 minus phi 1 z minus phi 2 z square, etc., phi p z to the power of p, the roots of this equation, p3 degree polynomial will have p roots, and the roots of this equation should lie outside the unit circle. That was the condition. So we have a similar condition here in terms of the eigenvalues of this. So here we are saying that this condition eigenvalues of the matrix A1 in the case of AR1. So in the case of ARP or vector order regression P, we can get a similar condition if you can write this as an AR1, because then the condition is very easy to handle. So otherwise, what is that you are trying to develop, or what is the equivalent one? Well, you can immediately say that ik minus a1z minus a2z square, etc., apz to the power of p, the determinant of that not equal to 0 for mod z less than 1. So, but how do you know that that is the condition? So that is very easy to find out, because what we are going to do is that a way where P model can be represented as a where 1 model. So for where 1 anyway we have proved that this is the condition. So I'll be able to write it in this particular form in the case of a where P. So let's see how a where P model can be written as a where 1 model. So the claim, the where P model of xt can be written as a where 1 model. What is the dimension in such a case? Because if this is of dimension k by 1, and you are now writing where p, so this, when you write it as a where 1, it will be of dimension kp. Now here xt is the original where p and yt is the rewritten where 1. So xt is where p, yt is where 1. What is the dimension of xt? K by 1. And what is the dimension of yt? Kp by 1. Why? Because xt is a where p. So why? Because in the sense that we are going to write it and show that to you. So how this can be written in a sense? So I am now claiming that given xt to you, I will be able to write a yt which is of the type where 1, where this dimension is kp. Now how this is possible? That's a very simple way of to do that. We are writing yt as, so what is yt? I am going to define yt as xt minus 1, etc., xt minus p plus 1. So this has p components, and I have k dimension for each of them, which means that this is of kp by 1. So yt is kp by 1. Now what I am going to do with this epsilon, this is called epsilon. So the epsilon is actually not epsilon, epsilon. So epsilon can be written as nu, which is k by 1, and I am adding so many such zeros, which are each of them are k by 1. Okay, so I'll add such p minus 1 vectors. So in all, this is like kp by 1, each of dimension p. So I will have kp as the dimension of this vector. And then I will have a ut here, where this ut is zt 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so this will be again of kp by 1. And this matrix A, we are going to write it as A is A1, A2, AP minus 1, AP. That is my first row. Okay, and then second row, we will write it as IK, 0, etc., 0, 0. Third row is 0, ik, etc. This 0 is not a scalar, but they are matrices. Okay, this 0 is a matrice of order k, pi. of, I mean, vector. I mean, like I would say this is because A1 is a k by k, so this is a k by k. This is also have to be k by k because otherwise this order doesn't match. Okay, so it's a each of them is a matrix, not even a vector. Whereas here we have considered this as a vector, so you have to be careful when you write the appropriate order because I am denoting vector as well as matrix by the same symbol 0. Only thing is that it is bold, so the order has to be taken appropriately, right? So here I will be writing ik 0, 0, 0, 0 ik etc 0, 0, etc. The last row is 0, 0, ik 0. Now if you multiply this by this yt, what do you get? A1 this xt, a2 xt minus 1, etc. ap minus 1 x t minus p and ap x t minus. So this will be you will be multiplying this a1. So actually the first one I mean like see this is actually this will be a separate in the sense that I will be writing this yt is so see my interest is to actually write this. So when you take t minus 1, this xt will be yt minus 1, this will be t minus 1, t minus 2, etc. T minus 1, so the pth order. So I will get exactly the same thing. So I will be able to write the first line of that is equal to this xt is equal to, okay, and a1 xt minus 1 plus a2 xt minus 2 etc. ap xt minus p new plus, because this has new here, so new plus and zt, so that will constitute, and rest of them are all 0. So what happened that you multiply with all these guys, these are all 0, so you multiply with this, it's not going to be there in the subsequent multiplications, because this is a and I am multiplying by the corresponding, so all these guys are going to be 0. So what will happen here is I will be able to write what is var p? This is my var p. Sorry, this is my var p in xt. This I will be able to write it as a var 1. But dimension is different. In var p, we are writing it is of dimension k, and then in var 1, it is of dimension kp. Okay, so if you define these matrices appropriately, so using the matrices of the var p, I am putting them and form a new matrix, a single matrix of kp by kp, and then I will be in a position to actually write this var 1. Now, once it is var 1, then I mean like I can discuss the stability as determinant of I minus a z. So, I mean, this is very simple because for var 1 we have already studied this. So then this is stable if determinant of ikp minus az not equal to 0 for z less than 1. So we will be able to get this. Now you can get the mean and variance of xt in terms of yt, because we already obtained the mean and variance of, this is the mean of var 1, this is the variance covariance matrix of var 1. So I'll be able to now find the mean and variance covariance matrix of var p in terms of the new var 1 that we have wrote. Okay, so how that can be done? That's pretty simple, because this xt is equal to j times yt, where yt is var 1, xt is var p. What is my j? ik 0, 0, 0. So we will be able to establish like this. Then the expectation of xt is j times expectation of yt. So it is j mu. Mu is this. Mu we have already seen. What is mu? Mu is this quantity. Ik minus a1 inverse mu. So a1 means it is a. Okay. So I'll be able to get the corresponding mean of that. Similarly, the variance covariance matrix. Now I am putting a subscript here. Until now I was not doing that, just to indicate that this is corresponding to x and this is corresponding to y, because this is like a mu, so a sigma a prime. So I'll get the variance covariance of x as j gamma y j prime. And what is the stability equation? So you can see that the stability equation is nothing but determinant of I a kp minus az. And if I write this particular matrix and this matrix, we know that this turns out to be nothing but determinant of ik minus a1z minus a2z square, etc., minus apz to the power of p. So this is what called as a reverse characteristic polynomial of a var p process. Okay, so what is the reverse characteristic polynomial? Determinant of ik minus, if it is a kth order process, the reverse characteristic polynomial is given by determinant of ik minus a1z minus a2z square, etc., apz to the power of p. And I will compute this determinant and show that it is not equal to 0 for all the values z which is absolute of z less than 1. Okay, so this is what it is. So the process is stable if the reverse characteristic polynomial has no roots on the complex unit circle. So this is complex unit circle. So within that there is no root. So that means roots are lying outside this unit circle. That means outside 1. Okay, so the roots, when you get this one, roots will be z's. There will be several roots. This is not a if it is a constant here, this will have p roots. But now it is not p roots, it will have more roots because this is a deterministic polynomial. So that's why you have to be careful. We will do some examples and it will be clear. So xt is stable if this is not equal to 0 for absolute. This is called stability condition of a var process. In fact, we are talking about var p. So this is a stability condition of a var p process. Let's take an example. So this example I'm not going to write down it completely because that's just simple algebra. So I'll just mention it, you can do it yourself. So I'm considering two examples here. The first example is it's a var1. So var1 means this will be the determinant of ik minus az. So you compute the determinant of ik minus a is given by this. So ik means 3 by 3. You take I as a 3 by 3 matrix minus this matrix multiply by z and then take the determinant of that matrix. Okay? So that matrix, now find the roots. That root should lie outside the unit circle. Then we can say that this process is stable. Okay? Now, in this case, this is a var1. So in this case, I have considered a var2. So in the case of var2, equation is same, like this is the equation. So I will not have these terms. I will have only this term. So you compute I2 minus a1z minus a2z square, the determinant of that matrix polynomial, and then get the roots of that, show that that is not equal to 0 for absolute of z less than or equal to 1. Okay, so this is what you need to show this in this particular case, or the roots are lying outside the unit circle. So basically you will be computing the root. Not equal to 0 means actually you will equate to 0 and then find what is the z for which it is 0. So it should lie outside the unit circle. Okay, now so I think you will be able to complete this. This is just a simple mechanical matrix algebra result, just finding the determinant. But of course, it will turn into a polynomial equation solving that. And now, if sometimes you may require R function to solve, because if it is third degree or fourth degree, you may not be able to solve manually, but you can use R for the solving of that equation. Okay, now the next question is write a MA representation of var1 and var2 process. So I have a var1 here, I have a var2 process here. What is the MA representation? The MA representation is given by this. So this is my MA representation. Why it is called MA representation? Some constant plus this is in terms of the past errors. Okay, so I need to get this particular representation. Now what happens that this representation is for a var1. So even if you are given a var2, write it, the first example of course it is a var1, so you will be able to do that directly. Second example, it's a var2. So first you need to convert it as a var1 using the trick that we have mentioned and then try to get this representation. Okay, so that is what this exercise is all about. So get AMA representation of var1 and var2 process. Now, is the MA representation of a stable var p process have to be necessarily infinite order? Now we may think that, looking at this expression, we may think that it is always going to be infinity. So we may think that, okay, all the time AMA representation means it is of this type. Now what happens that we can find certain matrices such that it's certain power onwards, all the powers are zero. This will not happen to a constant because if it is a non-zero constant, you know you can get the powers to be non-zero. But in a matrix, what happens that you are taking power? It can so happen that at some stage it becomes zero. Then all the higher powers are going to be zero. So what happened that this need not be going up to infinity. Of course, you can write infinity as a representation, but it may go only up to finite number. Okay. So I have given an example where you have to do this exercise. So, for example, you write the MA representation of this and show that the higher powers of this matrix is going to be zero after a stage. What is that stage? It is your exercise. Okay. So consider the where one process and obtain its MA representation. So this is what you are supposed to do here. Okay, so here is another example. This is little more involved because I have a, of course, the first example is of dimension 3, but this is dimension 3, but order also 2. Whereas in the earlier case, this is dimension 3, order 1, dimension 2, and order 2, and now the dimension 3, order 2. So this is connecting a gross national product, the money demand M2, that means M2. I think I had mentioned you in my first lecture. There are different measures of money, M1, M2, M3, depending the order of its liquidity. So we can define M1, M2, M3. Now, if you are more interested in what are these measures, exact definition in the Indian context, you can visit the Reserve Bank of India website and see that what is the definition of M1. So M1 is called basically the cash in hand and term deposits, and M2 you will add to that. No, not term deposit, current deposits. And for M2, you will add the demand deposit. And for M3, you will add some more things which can be liquidated without much of difficulties. That is what the money demand, M1, M2, M3. And then interest rate IR, in the Indian context, you may take the bank rate or interest rate is PLR, etc. So what is here, it is shown that these three variables has a where-to representation like this, where xt is this, GNP, M2, interest, sorry, nu is this, and A1 matrix is given, A2 matrix is given, okay? And the variance covariance matrix of this Z is a white noise with 0 sigma, and that sigma is given. Okay, I have given a decomposition of, I think this is an orthogonal decomposition, a decomposition of sigma, because that will help you sometimes. For the time being, you can just ignore this knowledge of this P. You can just ignore because we may not require that. Now, what is show that the process is stable. Now, for stable, what you need to do? Determinant of I3 minus A1 Z minus A2 Z square, that determinant. You have to see that what is for what Z this is equal to 0. Okay, so you may have to use R to solve them because this will be a higher degree polynomial equation. Manually, it may not be possible. Now, determine the mean vector of xt. So, what is the mean vector in this case? The mean vector is always for the pth order. The mean vector is given by j mu, where j is the corresponding this. Now, you can get it in this fashion, or you can get it because I have found the mean only in the case of var 1. So, you may have to, if you have var, in this case it is var 3, var 2, but dimension k is 3. You may have to convert in this particular, it is not just A1, it has A1, A2 and A3. So, but we know that the mean is turning out to be this, this is the, I mean like IKP minus A, this A is different than A1, okay, A include all the A1, A2, A3 into nu. This you ignore, determinant you ignore, so I minus A times inverse and then nu. I mean, that's what it is here. I mean, you have seen that I minus. This is for var 1, so I minus A1 inverse nu. So the same thing over there also. So please compute that in this particular case. Okay, so this is stable. Determine the mean vector of xt. Write the process in var form. So how will you write in the var 1 form? You go back to this. I have explained how to write in the var1 form. So identify these matrices and write this in the var1 form. Actually, what happened that it is enough to learn var1 in most of the cases, because any var p can be written as var1. So most of the properties can be learned in terms of var1. Okay. So now let's look at stability and stationarity, because I told that this is stable. I did not say stationary. Now what we can say that, because stationarity we define in terms of mean, variance and all, whereas here you are talking in terms of deterministic equation, I mean the reverse characteristic polynomial. Of course, we have seen the stationarity in the context of reverse characteristic polynomial, but we did not call it as reverse characteristic polynomial. We simply say that it's a polynomial. I mean, like in the case of univariate time series also, higher degree AR models, stationarity is discussed in terms of, not in terms of conditions for phi, but in terms of roots of the polynomial. So same thing here also. The roots of the polynomial in general we call it a stability condition, and but the stability implies the stationarity. So a VARP process is a stable VARP process is always stationary, because as the stability condition implies stationarity. Now, there is a converse of that. We are not discussing the converse in the sense the converse is not true. Unstable process is not necessarily non-stationary, because if something is not unstable, immediately you cannot conclude that it is non-stationary. That's why these two conditions are not equivalent. If it is equivalent, that would have been the case, but they are not equivalent. But this is not of interest to us, so we are not discussing that in more details, this particular one. Okay? Now, there is an associated result, which I am now just stating without any proof. Perhaps you might have heard about this when you were reading time series analysis. So the result is very simple, but this is heavily used in most of the stochastic process literature, especially when you're proving some normality and things of that type, normality of test statistics, etc., or estimator. What is this result all about? It says that every stationary process xt, so you can write the xt as a sum of two processes ut and yt. And what are these ut? Ut is actually a predictable process. So ut is a deterministic process that can forecast perfectly from its past values. So you can predict, if you have the past values, you can predict the ut. You can predict doesn't mean that it is constant or anything. Given the past values, you will be able to predict it. Okay, so UT is a deterministic process that can forecast perfectly from its past value. And this YT is a moving average like this. It's an infinite moving average like this. And once I write infinite, I have to make sure that it converges in mean square. So my coefficients, these matrices, have to have the property. Of course, this is 0, I take ik, and rest of them should be in such a way that this is absolutely summable. We are not claiming the absolute summability at this stage, but absolute summability is a sufficient condition for this to exist. So this is what wall decomposition results. What are you decomposing? Any stationary process can be written as a predictable process plus a moving average, infinite moving average. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. Now let's worry about the autocovariance and autocorrelations of VAR models. So I'm going to take a VAR1 first, and then you can extend to VAR-P. So consider a VAR1 process. So I have this VAR1 process. Okay. Remember that nu is not the mean. The mean is given by I minus A1 inverse into nu. That is the mean of this process. Okay. Now, you take the covariance, and then you can see that or you multiply by xt and then xt prime, and then you can see that take the expectations. You can see that gamma 0 is equal to of course you want to subtract mu from both the places, you can do that from all the terms. So effectively what you can see that gamma 0, a1 gamma minus 1, and gamma minus 1 is gamma 1 prime. Okay, gamma minus 1 is gamma 1 prime. So I can see, and here what happened, like we have already learned in the case of univariate case, xt minus 1 and zt are uncorrelated. Because this is the future value of zt. I mean, future in the sense, when you are in t minus 1 here, this is the next value, so this will be uncorrelated. So what you will get, gamma 0 you will get it as a1 gamma 1 prime plus sigma. This is for h equal to 0. And for h greater than 0, you will get, so I'll consider xt and xt minus h, or xt and xt plus h. So I'll get this as gamma h is equal to a1 gamma h minus 1. All of the other terms will be 0. So I'll get this. So these equations are not, you know this equation. I mean, like in the case of univariate case, we have seen that phi to the power of h is phi into phi to the power of h minus 1. So there is something similar here. This is gamma h is equal to, so this is autocovariance of lag h is equal to a1 times autocovariance of lag h minus 1. So these are known as Joule-Walker equation. Now, if you look at this equation, if I know a1 and if I know sigma, I will be in a position, so if a1 and sigma, because gamma 0 is sigma y, so I'll be able to, if these are given to you, a1 and this, then gamma h can be computed recursively from above equation. So how will you do that? So for example, if a1 and sigma are given, then gamma 0 can be computed as follows. From this equation, I will write it as gamma 1 equal to a1 gamma 0. Okay, a1 gamma 0. And gamma 0 is, you can get the expression here, gamma 0 is nothing but a1. So this gamma 1 I will replace again that with gamma 0, because this is prime. So I will have gamma 0, this is a symmetric matrix, so it is gamma 0 a1 prime plus the sigma. So I substitute that, so you get an expression like this. So now I will get gamma 0 from here. I can compute the gamma 0 because I can take I minus a1 prime plus sigma. That is gamma 0 into I minus a1 prime is equal to sigma. Therefore, gamma 0 equal to I minus a1 prime all inverse into sigma. It's like sigma square upon 1 minus phi square. So that's the matrix version of that. You can see that that's what you get. So for where P, now this same kind of equation we can develop. There are two sets of equation. One is for 0 and one is for greater than 0. So this kind of equation we can also develop in the case of where P model. So in the case of where P, what is this going to be? So this is my where P, and then you multiply by, of course, there is a problem. I mean, problem in the sense that once I write a non-zero quantity here, it has got a non-zero mean. So when you compute covariances, you may have to subtract that. But if you take it as 0, then it is very easy. I'll be multiplying with xt prime there. So I'll have gamma 0 here. Okay, so you have to be careful. Even though now that you have learned time series, I'm just ignoring that part. You got what I'm talking. I'm talking about a not this being non-zero here. Okay. So you may have to subtract it appropriately. So what I will get, gamma 0 equal to the same equation that I have here. This equation will be this, gamma 0 equal to a1 gamma 1 prime plus etc. plus there is AP here. AP is missing. AP gamma p prime sigma. One AP is missing here. So I have to have an AP here. I'm sorry. There is an AP typing error. AP is missing. So please add that. And gamma h is, this is for h greater than 0. You will get this. See, earlier if it is of order 1, it is gamma h equal to a1 gamma h minus 1. Now it is of order p. So a1 gamma h minus 1 plus etc. plus ap gamma h minus p. So here there is a ap is missing. So these are called Joule-Walker equation. Now the same thing, same logic is applicable here. If I know gamma h recursively, we can compute if a1, a2, ap and gamma p minus 1 etc. gamma 0 are known, I'll be able to get gamma h. So that we have seen in the univariate case, exactly the same thing. Don't divide, but take inverse. That's the main thing that you should know. So the initial autocovariance matrices gamma h less than p can be determined using var1 representation of var p. Now, what happens in these cases, there are up to p you may have to compute, and from, I mean, like h greater than 0. So because this is h greater than or equal to p, from p plus 1 onwards only you will get from here. because you have this gamma 0, otherwise minus, I mean, this will repeat here. You won't get the same thing. So from that point, you can actually substitute and find it. But until then, up to that point, if you want to compute, see here also, for example, gamma 0 I obtain from here, and gamma 1 onwards I will obtain from here. The same logic is applicable here. Gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma p, I have to obtain from here. And gamma p onwards, I can obtain from here, p plus 1, p plus 2, etc. Okay? So that is what it says. From p plus 1 onwards, I can compute it using this information a1, a2, ap, and gamma 0, etc., gamma p minus 1. You put h equal to p, that is what I am talking about. Okay? So how do you, I mean, like, so in order to obtain these fellows, suppose it is of order P, I need to obtain this. So the question is that how will you obtain this, right? Now one way of doing this is write your var P in var1 form. So how we have learned that a var P, which is X, so I can write in terms of var1. So it will be for the Y. So I'll be writing gamma 0, y I am writing here. So this, it is not A1, it is the matrix A, which includes A1, A2, etc., AP. All the members are there. So, and this U, I know the first component is ZT, rest of them are 0, 0, 0. That is what this sigma U stands for, variant covariant matrix of, you remember this representation. I am talking about this representation. So the U is this. So the variant covariance matrix is sigma 0, 0, 0, 0, because that's what here. So what I have here is this representation. Now gamma y0 is given by this, is gamma x0, gamma x1, gamma xp minus 1. So this will allow me to get gamma 1, gamma 2, etc., gamma p. So this can be obtained from the equation. So how will you obtain that? I mean, that's a good question. Because it's not very easy to obtain this. So what we need to do is that this equation can be used in a kind of a vector notation form. So I am trying to bring gamma y0 here, and oh, there's a gamma y0 here. So yeah, I did not write that. So it can be obtained in that manner. So this is also gamma y0. So you will be able to now obtain this by using the vec notation. I think in the last lecture I have introduced vec notation. So we can get, vec is nothing but vectorizing. So you are stacking those columns, vectors. So we will be able to compute this quantity. This relation I am not proving, but I think you can, it's just a matrix algebra, rewriting the stuff. So this you can rewrite in this manner. And how do you do that? I mean, like, that's pretty simple, because gamma y0, gamma y is here. So you take it out, so it is I minus a prime. Now that is the matrix format. And now if you take vec format, it is vec of this is equal to this inverse vec of this. Okay? So this is what you get, this particular, I think there is a vec here. I think that is missing. There is a vec here. So there are three errors. One is a vec here, and another one is there is a gamma 0 here. A third error is AP. Okay, so there are three typing errors I have found. So consider now this. So I am now trying to compute or give you an exercise. I know that, I mean, like, because of my digital pad is not there, I am unable to write of them. But I think now that you are in the fourth semester, you should be able to solve this. So I consider a var2 process. So this is exercise. You can actually consider it as a, this is a special case. I have now discussed the general var p. So if you take a var2 with these matrices, okay? So the exercise is like write this var2 in the var1 form. That all exercise you already done. This same example you have done already. Now what is additional is identify. So that is the first step which you already done. Now, so your A is this gamma 0 is this, sigma is this. Now you can actually find gamma x0, gamma x1 using vec of gamma y0. So you will be able to get this gamma x1 and gamma x0. And once you have that, I'll be able to get gamma x2 How do you get gamma x2? That you can obtain from this notation. So you'll be able to get it from here. A1 gamma x3 is A1 gamma x2 like that. So that's what it is written. 2 is equal to A1 gamma x1 plus A2 gamma x0. 3 means 2 plus this. This is, see, you have to be careful which process that you are considering. So whenever you write covariances, we write the corresponding process as subscript here. Now what happens that these equations I am now trying to find, whenever you have where 2, you will only get from 3, 4, etc. So 0, 1, 2 you need to actually obtain, sorry, from 2 onwards. 0 is, I mean, when you put p equal to 0, you get 0. So 0 and 1, you need to obtain it separately. But otherwise, from that point onwards, you can actually get it from this equation. You will be able to get it from this equation or this equation. I mean, like in the case of where, yeah, this equation. Okay, because I have converted A1, A2 to A, so I'll get this equation. So from that point onwards, you will get, but the first two or first three, depending on the order, you need to compute it using this vec notation. Okay, so that's what this is, and then you will get these matrices. Now, so what we are talking about the autocovariances, you divide by the corresponding variances or the gamma zero matrix, you get the autocorrelation matrix. So, lecture 1, we have seen that autocorrelation is defined like this. So, I can get autocorrelations are defined in this manner, where this is actually the diagonal matrix with standard deviation of the component of xt on the main diagonal. So that's what this correlation matrix is, RH. Diagonal elements of D are the square root of the diagonal elements. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.